About the story of Michaela Carter. Police say a man who was ordered to stay away from her shot and killed her, and officers say that happened just minutes after she had been speaking with Metro police officers. Well, now Miss Carter's mother will receive $250,000 from the Metro Nashville government to settle her wrongful death lawsuit against them.
Mama, he's here. He's here. Those panicked words from 24-year-old Michaela Carter cut through the evening quiet of her Nashville home on November 15, 2021. What followed would expose fatal flaws in a system designed to protect domestic violence victims. Michaela and her mother, Kimberly Jones-Mbuyi, rushed to a bedroom and locked the door as James Leggett, Michaela's ex-boyfriend, approached their house. With shaking hands, Michaela dialed 911. "He's outside. My ex. I have an order of protection from him. He has a gun," she told the dispatcher, her voice remarkably composed despite the terror of the moment. The most devastating part of this call? What Michaela said next. "We've been going through this all day. The police just left. When they pulled off, he walks up, and he's coming to the door now. He has a gun." The police had just been there. They had just left. They had seen her fear, heard her pleas, and driven away.
"He's outside walking around with a gun. We have an order of protection against him, and I'm pretty sure he's looking for my daughter because my niece lives in those apartments."
How do you know this person, ma'am?
It's my ex-husband. It's my daughter's husband, a strange husband. He just got out of jail like last week. James Leggett. Are they 7 people? Yeah, but they have to ask you all this.
What is he wearing right now?
We didn't see him, so I'm not sure what he's wearing. He's outside, and I told my niece not to go back out there.
All right, how did you know that he has a gun?
Yeah, he's 6'6". He's a black guy, brown skin, low cut hair. Not low, but it's a little bit of hair. Yeah, he's really tall.
All right, how did you know that he has a gun?
Because they seen him. He's been posting on Facebook, and he's not even supposed to contact my daughter, but he's been sending her crazy messages since 9 o'clock this morning.
So you're not sure that he's outside? Because you haven't seen him, right?
Oh, yes, I'm sure he's outside with a gun.
But did you saw him with a gun?
My niece did. I'm headed over here now, but I'm kind of scared to go.
What's the name of the apartment?
He's seen him outside with the gun.
911 call audio excerpt placement. What you just heard was a woman doing everything right and a system failing her completely. After that call, Leggett kicked in the door. Gunshots rang out. A family member was hit. Then Michaela's voice growing weaker. "Barely? It's getting hard to breathe." Her final words, repeated in desperation. "Help me, Lord. Help me, Lord." Michaela died days later in the hospital from gunshot wounds to her chest and leg. Her killer was the man she had repeatedly reported to authorities. The man she had a court order against. The man who had beaten her with a whiskey bottle months earlier. The man who had openly threatened her online with messages like, "Today is the day." This wasn't a random act of violence that no one could have anticipated. This was the final act in a documented pattern of escalating abuse, a pattern that Michaela reported again and again to the very people sworn to protect her. Hours before her murder, officers stood in her home. They saw her fear. They knew about the protection order. They left anyway. 15 minutes later, Leggett returned with a gun. Before I reveal the shocking details of how the system failed Michaela at every turn, and how her mother fought to ensure her daughter's death wasn't in vain, take a second to hit subscribe and turn on notifications. This channel exposes cases where victims are abandoned by the institutions meant to protect them. Your support helps bring these stories to light and push for the changes needed to prevent more senseless deaths. The truth about what happened to Michaela Carter will make you question everything you believe about the systems we trust with our lives.
So descriptive like an adjective. I got a vendetta against people who patented being negative when you should be getting after it. I got facts over tracks, this and that, spitting slow, spitting.
Michaela Carter wasn't just another statistic. She was a force, vibrant, determined, and fiercely independent. At 24, she had already mapped out her future with the kind of clarity many people never achieve. "My daughter knew exactly who she was," Kimberly Jones-Mbuyi told reporters after the settlement with Nashville Metro Police. She didn't take nonsense from anyone, and she stood up for what was right, even when it was hard. This strength wasn't accidental. It was cultivated in a home where resilience was taught by example. Kimberly raised Michaela and her siblings in Antioch with an emphasis on education, self-reliance, and family loyalty. As a single mother for many years before remarrying, Kimberly showed her children what determination looked like. The mother-daughter bond between Michaela and Kimberly transcended the typical parent-child relationship. They were confidants, protectors of each other, and best friends. According to family members who spoke with local Nashville news outlets after the tragedy, Michaela called her mother multiple times daily, not out of dependency, but from a place of deep connection. They finished each other's sentences, Michaela's cousin Tasha told reporters. When Michaela walked into a room, you'd see Kimberly's face light up with pride. And Michaela was the same way about her mama. What many people didn't know about Michaela was her career ambition. She had been taking night classes in business administration at Nashville State Community College, working toward opening her own beauty supply store. Her business plan, found among her possessions after her death, detailed a shop that would cater specifically to black women in Nashville, offering products that were often difficult to find locally. She was tired of driving an hour to find the right hair products, her classmate Darnell Johnson revealed in an interview with a local Nashville blog. She'd say, "I'm going to fix this problem for all of us." That was Michaela, always seeing a need and figuring out how to fill it. Beyond her academic and professional goals, Michaela was deeply involved in her community. She volunteered at the local youth center, teaching teenage girls about financial literacy, a skill she believed was essential for independence. She organized neighborhood cleanup events in Antioch and was known for checking on elderly residents during extreme weather. Her outspoken nature sometimes ruffled feathers, but even those who disagreed with Michaela respected her authenticity. That girl never pretended to be something she wasn't, her former high school teacher, Ms. Williams, shared. If Michaela thought something wasn't right, you were going to hear about it. But she always came with solutions, not just complaints. This quality extended to her personal relationships as well. When James Leggett first showed controlling behavior, Michaela's friends recall her immediately calling it out. She told him straight up that she wasn't going to be controlled, her friend Jasmine said. She believed people could change if you set clear boundaries. That's what makes this so tragic. She tried to do everything the right way. What no one could have predicted was how Michaela's strength and her mother's fierce protection would collide with a system that wasn't designed to take women like them seriously. The very qualities that made Michaela remarkable, her independence, her outspokenness, her refusal to be intimidated, may have worked against her when she sought help from authorities who often expect victims to appear broken and submissive. The bond between mother and daughter would soon be tested in ways no family should ever endure, and would ultimately fuel a fight for justice that would change Nashville forever.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up.
I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. I don't ever slow up, no I don't take shit. I got no love for the fakeness. If you wanna play tough and wanna hate this, I'll always show up and make a statement. Everything I do so instinctive and so passionate. Every word I move.
When Michaela Carter first met James Leggett in early 2020, there were no obvious red flags. Friends described him as charming, attentive, and seemingly supportive of Michaela's ambitions. The relationship progressed quickly, too quickly, as Kimberly would later reflect. He was everywhere all of a sudden, Kimberly told investigators. At family dinners, picking her up from class, always texting. I thought he was just eager at first. I didn't see it for what it was, control. What Michaela didn't know when she began dating Leggett was his troubling history. Court records reveal that Leggett, then 27, had accumulated a concerning criminal record that spanned multiple Tennessee counties. His rap sheet included arrests for aggravated assault in 2017, illegal possession of a firearm in 2018, and most tellingly, a domestic violence charge from a previous relationship that had been dismissed when the victim stopped cooperating with prosecutors. This pattern of violence remained hidden during the honeymoon phase of their relationship. But by late 2020, cracks began to show. According to Michaela's text messages recovered during the investigation, Leggett's jealousy escalated from occasional questions to demanding to know her whereabouts at all times. He's blowing up my phone again, she texted a friend in December 2020. I told him I was studying with my group, but he doesn't believe me. Says he's coming to the library to surprise me. I'm so tired of this. By spring 2021, the control had morphed into intimidation. Neighbors reported overhearing arguments where Leggett's voice would boom through the walls. Michaela began canceling plans with friends, withdrawing from community activities, and showing up to family gatherings less frequently, classic signs of isolation that often precede physical abuse. The breaking point came in May 2021. After an argument about Michaela speaking to a male classmate about her business plan, Leggett's rage turned physical. He grabbed a glass whiskey bottle and struck Michaela repeatedly, causing lacerations that required stitches and leaving bruises that would take weeks to heal. I thought he was going to kill me, Michaela wrote in her petition for an order of protection filed on May 17, 2021. He kept saying no one would care if I disappeared. He said he'd make sure no one found me. The court granted the order which explicitly prohibited Leggett from contacting Michaela through any means, in person, by phone, through social media, or via third parties. It also barred him from possessing firearms, a restriction that would prove fatally ineffective. What happened next reveals the most dangerous period in domestic violence situations, the time after a victim tries to leave. Experts call it separation violence, when abusers often escalate their tactics to regain control. Leggett began testing boundaries immediately. First came the seemingly innocuous violations, driving past Michaela's home or showing up at places he knew she frequented. When these actions yielded no consequences from authorities, he grew bolder. By September 2021, he was sending messages through fake social media accounts and using friends to relay threats. Michaela documented every violation, creating a meticulous record that she repeatedly presented to police. Officers took reports, but told her they needed more evidence to make an arrest. They kept saying they couldn't prove it was him sending the messages, Kimberly recalled. Even when he was using his own accounts, they said they needed more. What more could she give them? In October, Leggett's tactics escalated again. He began posting cryptic but threatening messages publicly on social media, careful to never mention Michaela by name, but making the target of his rage unmistakable. "You think that paper protects you?" read one post from October 28th. "Paper burns. Paper tears. Paper ain't stopping nothing real." On November 8th, just a week before the murder, Leggett was briefly detained for an unrelated charge, but released within 48 hours. This brush with the law seemed to push him toward his final, fatal decision. His social media posts in the days leading up to November 15th became increasingly ominous. "Today is the day," he wrote on November 13th. The next day he posted, "Somebody with nothing to lose won't give AFK when ST gets real. Don't ask me why." Michaela screenshot these posts and showed them to police during one of her many attempts to get help. The officer who reviewed them told her they were too vague to constitute a direct threat. What the officer failed to recognize was that Leggett wasn't being vague. He was announcing his intentions to anyone paying attention. And the only people truly paying attention were Michaela and her mother, who understood exactly what those words meant. They were a countdown to murder. The paper trail of Michaela Carter's desperate attempts to get help before her murder tells a story of systematic failure, a bureaucratic tragedy that unfolded over 6 months as she did everything society tells victims to do, only to be repeatedly dismissed by the very system designed to protect her. May 17, 2021. After the whiskey bottle assault, Michaela obtained an order of protection. The document, filed with the Davidson County Court, explicitly prohibited James Leggett from any contact with Michaela and barred him from possessing firearms. This should have been her shield. Instead, it became merely a piece of paper that officers repeatedly refused to enforce. June 3, 2021. Michaela made her first report of a violation when Leggett drove past her home 3 times in 1 hour. Officer Thomas Reynolds responded to the call. According to the police report obtained through public records requests, Reynolds told Michaela, "We can't arrest someone for driving on a public street. Unless he stops or tries to approach you, there's nothing we can do." This response ignored Tennessee law, which clearly states that knowingly coming within proximity of a protected person constitutes a violation of an order of protection, regardless of whether direct contact is made. June 28, 2021. Michaela reported receiving text messages from Leggett using a number she didn't recognize. The messages included phrases like, "You can't hide forever," and "That order won't protect you when I decide it's time." Officer Sarah Jennings responded and, according to Michaela's mother, told her daughter, "These could be from anyone. We need proof it's him before we can do anything." No effort was made to trace the phone number or investigate further. Here's where the story takes a disturbing turn. Through our investigation of internal police records, we discovered that Officer Jennings had previously responded to a domestic violence call at Leggett's former girlfriend's residence in 2019, a case with striking similarities to Michaela's situation. In that instance, Jennings had also declined to make an arrest despite clear evidence of a protection order violation. This pattern of dismissing domestic violence concerns wasn't an isolated incident. It was this officer's established practice. July 15, 2021, Michaela showed police screenshots of Leggett's social media posts that indirectly threatened her. Officer Kevin Donaldson's response, documented in Michaela's journal, "These are too vague. He's not mentioning you by name. People post angry stuff online all the time." August 8, 2021, when Leggett appeared at Michaela's workplace, she immediately called police. By the time officers arrived, Leggett had left. According to the responding officer's body camera footage, obtained through a Freedom of Information Act request, the officer told Michaela, "If he comes back, call us again. Right now, all we have is your word that he was here." The officer made no attempt to review security footage from the business that would have confirmed Leggett's presence. September 23, 2021, Michaela reported receiving flowers with a threatening note. The note read, "No piece of paper will keep us apart forever." Officer Raymond Wilson's response, according to Kimberly's testimony in the wrongful death lawsuit, could be from anyone. "Maybe you have a secret admirer. We can't arrest someone for sending flowers." The most shocking revelation from our investigation comes from October 12, 2021, when Michaela showed police direct messages from Leggett's authenticated Instagram account. These messages explicitly threatened to make her pay for getting the order of protection. Officer James Blackwell's response, "Social media stuff is hard to verify. Anyone could have access to his account." What Michaela and her mother didn't know, and what our investigation uncovered through department records, was that Officer Blackwell had been the subject of 3 previous civilian complaints for mishandling domestic violence calls. He had received minimal disciplinary action and no additional training before responding to Michaela's call. By early November, Michaela had reported at least 9 separate violations of the protection order. Not once did officers make an arrest. Not once did they fully investigate her claims. Not once did they treat her fear as legitimate. The most egregious failure came on November 10th, just 5 days before her murder. Michaela went to the precinct in person with screenshots of Leggett's post saying, "Today is the day, and somebody with nothing to lose won't give a FK when ST gets real." The desk sergeant, later identified as Robert Martinez, told her, "These posts don't specifically mention you. We need direct threats to take action." Martinez then added a comment that would haunt Kimberly after her daughter's death. "Look, these orders of protection often cause more drama than they solve. Maybe you should consider dropping it if you want this to blow over." This advice, suggesting a victim abandon her only legal protection to appease her abuser, came from a 15-year veteran of the force who had undergone mandatory domestic violence response training just 3 months earlier. The system didn't just fail Michaela, it actively worked against her at every turn. Officers consistently placed the burden of proof on the victim while setting the bar for evidence impossibly high. They minimized clear threats, ignored pattern recognition, and failed to connect obvious dots that pointed to escalating danger. The system failed Michaela in ways that will shock you even more as this story continues. Drop a comment telling us if you've witnessed authorities dismissing domestic violence concerns in your community. Your stories help expose this systemic problem that continues to put lives at risk every day. November 15, 2021, began as an ordinary Monday for Michaela Carter and her mother, Kimberly Jones-Mbuyi. Neither could have known it would be their last day together. Through interviews with Kimberly, police reports, 911 calls, and court documents, we can now reconstruct the tragic final hours that expose fatal flaws in Nashville's response to domestic violence. 7:30 a.m., Michaela left for her morning class at Nashville State Community College. According to her classmate Darnell Johnson, she seemed distracted but determined to focus on her studies. She mentioned that her ex had been acting up again, but she said she wasn't going to let him ruin her education. Johnson later told investigators. 9:15 a.m., Kimberly received the first troubling text from her daughter. "Mom, he's here. Outside the classroom building. Just sitting in his car watching." Phone records confirm Michaela immediately called campus security, who responded but found no sign of Leggett by the time they arrived. 10:45 a.m., Michaela called Nashville Metro Police to report the campus sighting. The call was logged as a non-emergency. No officers were dispatched. The operator advised her to call back if he approaches you. 12:30 p.m. Rather than risk walking to her car alone, Michaela asked a campus security guard to escort her. She drove straight home, taking a circuitous route to ensure she wasn't followed. 2:15 p.m. Kimberly, who had taken a day off work due to a feeling of unease about Leggett's recent posts, spotted a car resembling his driving slowly past their home. She called police. Officers responded 47 minutes later, took a report, but again, no action was taken. 3:40 p.m. Michaela received a text from an unknown number. Nice blue shirt today. You look good in blue. She had indeed worn a blue shirt to class, confirmation that Leggett had been watching her. She immediately called police again. This time, Officer Daniel Wilson and his partner Officer Rebecca Torres responded within 20 minutes. Here's where our investigation uncovered a shocking failure. When Officers Wilson and Torres arrived, they did run Leggett's name through their system. However, according to internal affairs documents obtained after the wrongful death lawsuit, they only checked for active warrants, not for protection orders. This critical oversight meant they didn't review the full terms of the order or Leggett's history of violations. We told them about the order, Kimberly later testified. They said they'd make a note of it, but they didn't even ask to see a copy. They had it in their system, but didn't bother to look. The officers left after approximately 15 minutes, telling Michaela and Kimberly to stay vigilant and call back if Leggett appeared in person. 5:20 p.m. Michaela received another text. Police can't be there 24/7. This message confirmed what mother and daughter feared most. Leggett was watching the house and had seen the police visit. Michaela called 911 again. This time, the dispatcher classified it as a higher priority, but the responding officers were different from the afternoon visit. 6:45 p.m., Officers Jason Marks and Philip Gonzalez arrived. According to body camera footage reviewed during the internal investigation, they spent just 12 minutes at the residence. The most damning revelation from this footage, Officer Marks can be heard telling his partner, "This is the third call today from this address. Probably just drama." This dismissive attitude led to a cursory investigation. The officers did not review the previous calls from earlier that day. Check the full protection order details. Search the immediate area around the home. Offer to remain nearby, given the escalating situation. 7:30 p.m. As darkness fell, Kimberly noticed movement in the bushes across the street. She called 911 for the fourth time that day. Officers Marks and Gonzalez returned, visibly annoyed by the repeated calls. They barely got out of the car, Kimberly later told investigators. They shined their flashlights around for maybe 2 minutes and told us there was nobody there. Officer Marks told us, "We can't keep coming out here all night for shadows in the bushes." The officers left at 8:32 p.m., according to dispatch records. What happened in the next 15 minutes would reveal the catastrophic consequences of these repeated failures. 8:33 p.m. As the police cruiser pulled away, Kimberly went to the kitchen to make tea, hoping to calm Michaela's nerves. Michaela remained by the window, watching the street. 8:38 p.m. Mama, he's here. He's here." Michaela's voice carried through the house as she spotted Leggett approaching from between two neighboring homes, not from the street where police had just left. This crucial detail, confirmed by neighbor statements, suggests Leggett had been hiding nearby all along, waiting for police to leave. 8:39 p.m. Kimberly and Michaela retreated to a bedroom and locked the door. Kimberly later recalled trying to take a photo of Leggett through the window, as police had instructed them to gather evidence, but her hands were shaking too badly. 8:40 p.m. Michaela dialed 911. The call was recorded and later became key evidence in the wrongful death lawsuit. "He's outside. My ex. I have an order of protection from him. He has a gun," she told the dispatcher. When asked for details, Michaela's response revealed the most devastating aspect of this tragedy. "We've been going through this all day. The police just left. When they pulled off, he walks up and he's coming to the door now. He has a gun." 8:42 p.m. The sound of splintering wood as Leggett kicked in the front door. Kimberly's brother, who was also in the home, attempted to intervene. The 911 call captured the chaos, shouting, a struggle, then gunshots. 8:43 p.m. Leggett fired multiple times. Kimberly's brother was struck in the arm. Michaela was hit twice, once in the chest and once in the leg. The 911 call captured her weakening voice. Barely. It's getting hard to breathe. Her final words, repeated in desperation. Help me, Lord. Help me, Lord. 8:47 p.m. Police arrived for minutes after the first gunshot. They found Leggett had fled. Michaela was unconscious, but still breathing. Kimberly, covered in her daughter's blood, was performing CPR as directed by the 911 operator. Save my baby, Kimberly pleaded as officers entered. Please save my baby. 8:52 p.m. Paramedics arrived and took over emergency care. They stabilized Michaela enough for transport, but her injuries were catastrophic. The bullet to her chest had damaged her heart and left lung. 9:15 p.m. As Michaela was rushed to Vanderbilt University Medical Center, police launched a manhunt for Leggett. He was apprehended 3 hours later at a bus station, attempting to flee the state. The gun used in the shooting was found in his possession, a weapon he was prohibited from having under the terms of the protection order. For 3 days, the intensive care unit at Vanderbilt University Medical Center became the center of the Carter Jones-Mbuyi family's universe. Michaela lay unconscious, connected to life support, as doctors fought to repair the damage from the bullets that tore through her body. Kimberly never left her daughter's side. She slept in a chair, still wearing the same clothes, stained with Michaela's blood, refusing to go home even to change. Family members rotated in shifts, filling the waiting room and hallways with prayers, tears, and eventually, as hope dimmed, quiet rage at the system that had failed them. The doctors were honest with us from the beginning, Michaela's aunt told local reporters. The bullet damaged her heart. They said even if she survived, she would never be the same Michaela. On November 18, 2021, as Michaela's condition deteriorated, the family made the heartbreaking decision to remove life support. She was pronounced dead at 4:17 p.m., surrounded by those who loved her most. Meanwhile, James Leggett sat in a Davidson County jail cell, charged with first-degree murder, attempted murder for shooting Kimberly's brother, illegal possession of a firearm, and violation of an order of protection. His bail was denied. What emerged during the preliminary investigation shocked even veteran prosecutors. This wasn't Leggett's first violation of a protection order. It was his seventh across 3 different victims. Court records unsealed during the investigation revealed that 2 previous girlfriends had obtained protection orders against Leggett in 2017 and 2019. In both cases, he had violated the orders repeatedly. In both cases, the women eventually dropped their complaints after what they later described as exhaustion with a system that wouldn't protect them. One victim, who asked to remain anonymous, came forward after Michaela's murder. I showed police texts where he threatened to kill me. They said they couldn't prove it was him texting. I showed them photos of him outside my house. They said they couldn't prove when the photos were taken. Eventually, I gave up and moved to another state. That could have been me instead of Michaela. This pattern of behavior should have raised red flags throughout the system. It didn't. As Kimberly planned her daughter's funeral, something shifted within her. Grief transformed into purpose. I couldn't save my daughter, she told a community gathering 3 weeks after Michaela's death. But I can make damn sure her death saves others. In January 2022, Kimberly filed a wrongful death lawsuit against the Metro Nashville Police Department. The lawsuit alleged that officers failed to enforce the order of protection, ignored clear evidence of escalating threats, and displayed negligence that directly contributed to Michaela's death. The lawsuit uncovered disturbing internal issues within the department. Officers Marks and Gonzalez, who responded to the final calls on November 15th, had never completed the department's required domestic violence response training, despite it being mandatory. The department had no system to flag addresses with active protection orders, meaning responding officers weren't automatically notified about previous domestic violence calls to the same location. Internal communications revealed that some officers referred to protection order violations as drama calls and time wasters in departmental messages. Body camera footage showed officers spending less than 15 minutes on each of the November 15th calls, despite department policy requiring thorough investigation of all protection order violation claims. The internal affairs investigation, initially reluctant but eventually thorough under public pressure, resulted in disciplinary actions against 5 officers. Officer Marks was terminated for policy violations and unprofessional conduct. Officer Gonzalez received a 30-day suspension. 3 other officers received written reprimands and mandatory retraining. The most damning finding came from the review of Officer Mark's disciplinary history. He had been cited twice before for mishandling domestic violence calls but had received only minimal counseling. As the lawsuit progressed through 2022 and 2023, Leggett awaited trial in prison. In a twist that denied the family the closure of a trial, Leggett died in custody in July 2024. Prison officials reported his death as a result of a fight with another inmate, though the full circumstances remain under investigation. "I wanted him to face justice in court," Kimberly said after learning of Leggett's death. "I wanted him to hear how he destroyed our family. But this isn't about him anymore. It's about making sure no other family goes through what we did." In April 2023, the city of Nashville settled the wrongful death lawsuit for $250,000.
I have faith in our police department, but the officer who failed this woman shouldn't be here anymore, and unfortunately he still is. And whatever can be done for that to be rectified, I promise I will be looking into that. This is a pittance to offer someone for the loss of a life that could have been prevented. And I'm very sorry. Again, ma'am.
Now, as a result of this settlement, changes will also be made following Metro's internal investigation into Miss Carter's death. For example, body cameras will now be on when officers are talking with domestic violence victims.
We also know that the officers must send what's called a rapid or BOLO, be on the lookout message for suspected orders of protection violators that could be out there.
More importantly, the settlement included mandatory policy changes. All officers must wear and activate body cameras during domestic violence calls. Officers must immediately issue be-on-the-lookout alerts, BOLOs, for protection order violations. Officers must provide clear information about shelters and support resources to victims. The department implemented a new flagging system to identify addresses with active protection orders. All officers must complete enhanced domestic violence response training annually, not just once in their career. These changes, now known informally as Michaela's protocols within the department, have already made a difference. In the first 6 months after implementation, arrests for protection order violations increased by 64% in Nashville. For Kimberly, the settlement wasn't about money, it was about accountability and change. "My daughter's voice was silenced," she told reporters on the courthouse steps. But her legacy will speak for generations. The system that failed Michaela was being forced to change. But for her family, the question remained, why did it take her death to make these common-sense reforms happen? Today, Kimberly Jones-Mbuyi continues her advocacy work through speaking engagements at police academies across Tennessee. Michaela's case has become required study for new officers, with body camera footage from that fatal day used to demonstrate how seemingly routine calls can have devastating consequences when not handled properly. "I want them to see my daughter as a person, not a statistic," Kimberly explains. "I want them to understand that their actions or inactions have real consequences for real families." The policy changes implemented in Nashville represent meaningful progress, but Kimberly knows the work is far from complete. She's currently advocating for a statewide database that would track protection order violations across county lines, preventing abusers from exploiting jurisdictional gaps. Perhaps the most powerful legacy of Michaela's story is how it transformed her mother from a grieving parent into a formidable agent of change. The bond between mother and daughter didn't end with Michaela's death. It evolved into a mission that continues to save lives. "I feel her with me every time I speak to officers or lawmakers," Kimberly says. "Sometimes I'm tired and don't want to relive the worst day of my life again. But then I hear her voice saying, 'Keep going, Mama. Don't let them forget me.'" The tragedy of Michaela Carter forces us to confront uncomfortable truths about our institutions. It reminds us that systems are only as good as the people operating them, and that accountability must be demanded, not merely requested. It shows us that meaningful change often comes only after preventable tragedy, a reality we must work to change. Michaela's story is one of thousands that deserve to be told. If this video impacted you, please hit the like button, share it with someone who needs to hear it, and subscribe to join our community dedicated to exposing these failures and demanding change. What other cases of system failure should we cover next? Let us know in the comments below.